They dressed a 9-month-old corpse in papal robes, sat it on a throne, and started asking it legal questions. But first, the like button's been sitting there since the start of the video, and honestly, it's getting uncomfortable. This is January 897, Rome, and Pope Stephen VI has a serious problem. His predecessor, Pope Formosus, has been dead for 9 months. Most people would let that be the end of it. Not Stephen. Stephen's got beef with a corpse, and he's not the kind of guy to let a little thing like death get in the way of settling a score. So what does Stephen do? He orders his guys to dig up Formosus, haul the body over to the Basilica of St. John Lateran, and put the whole thing on trial. Not a symbolic trial, not a political stunt where they burn an effigy or something. No, they literally prop the rotting corpse of the former pope on a throne, dress it in full papal vestments, and hold an actual legal proceeding. In a church, in front of witnesses. This is happening. And it gets better. They assign a young deacon to be the corpse's defense attorney. Imagine being that guy. You show up to work one morning and your boss tells you you're defending a dead pope in a trial presided over by his successor, who clearly already made up his mind. The deacon's standing there next to 9 months of decomposition in fancy robes, and he's supposed to answer questions. What's he gonna say? My client pleads not guilty on account of being extremely deceased? The charges are perjury, illegal accession to the papacy, and violating canon law by holding multiple bishoprics at once. Basically, Stephen's claiming Formosus never had the right to be pope in the first place. And according to the sources, Stephen doesn't just calmly read the charges. He screams them at the corpse. The medieval historian Liutprand of Cremona says Stephen was yelling things like, "Why did you usurp the Roman See?" at a body that probably hadn't had working vocal cords since spring. You'd think the whole thing would be quick, right? Just a show trial to make a point and move on. Nope. They go through the motions. The deacon tries to mount some kind of defense. Stephen rants. The corpse sits there doing what corpses do, which is nothing. And somehow, at the end of all this, they reach a verdict. Guilty, on all counts. The dead pope loses his trial. Now here's where it really goes off the rails. Finding the corpse guilty isn't enough. They gotta punish it, so they strip off the papal vestments right there in the basilica. Then they chop off the free fingers Formosus used for blessings, just hack them right off. Some sources say when they stripped the body, blood started flowing from its mouth, which is either a miracle, decomposition doing weird things, or the most metal detail in church history. Maybe all three, but they're not done. After mutilating the corpse, they drag what's left of Pope Formosus out of the church and chuck him into the Tiber River. All his ordinations? Invalidated. His papacy? Nullified. The guy's entire legacy? Erased. Or so Stephen thought. Turns out, putting a rotting corpse on trial and then tossing it in a river doesn't play well with the public. Who knew? The people of Rome were horrified. This wasn't just disrespectful, it was unhinged even by medieval papal standards, which is saying something because those standards were already pretty loose. The whole event became known as the Cadaver Synod, or Synodus Horrenda if you want to get fancy with your Latin, which translates roughly to the Synod of Horror. Accurate. Within months, the public outrage hits a boiling point. By July or August of 897, Pope Stephen VI gets deposed, thrown in prison, and strangled to death. Strangled. The guy who screamed at a corpse got murdered in a cell less than a year after his psychotic trial. And the story of Formosus? It doesn't end in the river. According to rumor, the body washed up on the banks of the Tiber, and people started claiming it was performing miracles. Because of course they did. A year later, in 898, a new pope named John IX holds another synod and says, "Yeah, that whole corpse trial thing was insane, we're annulling all of it." Formosus gets rehabilitated, his papacy is reinstated, his ordinations are valid again. Everything Stephen tried to destroy gets put back together, which means the Cadaver Synod accomplished absolutely nothing except becoming one of the most deranged moments in the history of the Catholic Church. And that's the thing about the Cadaver Synod. It wasn't a footnote. It wasn't some weird thing that happened in a basement somewhere. It was a full-blown ecclesiastical trial held in one of the most important churches in Christendom, with witnesses, legal proceedings, and a pope screaming at a decomposing body like it owed him money. They severed fingers, they dumped a former pope in a river, and then the guy who orchestrated the whole thing got strangled in prison while his victim's corpse allegedly started doing miracles. You can't make this up. Well, you could, but no one would believe you. If you were Pope Stephen in January 897, would you have dug up your predecessor and put him on trial, just screamed into the void for 9 months until you felt better, or skipped the whole thing and focused on literally anything else? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay unhinged.